Hi guys, this is Bill again. I'm sure you all know me by now, all millions of you. Just kidding. So I want to do something a little different. That's my goal, is to do something a little different every time. So I don't just do one type of cooking. And sometimes I go out of my comfort zone, but I was doing that little walk down memory lane thing, and I was thinking about, what did you do when, what do you remember when you were a kid? And I remember on occasion good old-fashioned Toll House cookies. So I kind of want to revive that recipe and show you, because obviously, like I always said, let's do something that's pretty simple, something you can involve your whole family in, and tell stories while you're making them about when you were a kid. You remember? I mean, I remember exactly my mom's old white Sunbeam mixer. The control on the back had two beaters. One beater was more curved because that's what did the edge of the bowl. You had a little selector on the back you had two different pivot points where you put the little plate in, and then you had two bowls and they were white glass. It tilted up, and it was a maniac of a mixer, but I think everybody had one when I was a kid. It wasn't a house I didn't go in that they didn't have one. 1 through 12, man, you could make that thing just roast. Of course, these mixers today are a lot stronger, a lot better, but you could control, you had to sit there with your hand on it, move it back and forth, and spatula on the other hand. Hopefully you didn't get it too close and get caught in, because those were metal beaters. So anyway, let's get started. I've got my oven at 375. I've got 2 sticks of butter in here. You want these at room temperature. A little helpful hint from Heloise is that if you let them just sit on the counter in the paper, sometimes it's hard to get them out of the paper if you don't sit too long. So I always like to get my mixer all set, get it in here, and these should be pretty soft, yeah. So I can't talk over this thing, so we're just going to mix. I just need to beat the butter till it gets a little creamy, not too much. I think you need a new muffler for this thing. Man, it's so loud. Okay, so I've got the butter just beat up a little bit. So now what I need is 3/4 cup of brown sugar. You pack it right in there, and 3/4 cup of granulated sugar. So if you've never done that before, you literally take the 3/4 measuring cup, pack it right in there, and then I needed the 3/4 cup of white sugar. So I need to drop this down. Start off real slow. Beautiful. So now I need to add my 1 teaspoon of real vanilla extract. Please don't use imitation. I love the smell of this stuff. So what do you remember about making Toll House cookies, if you ever made them? I think the biggest thing is that to make them modernized, maybe to try and make them more healthy or something, everyone puts nuts in them now. I never recall having nuts in my Toll House cookies, so I don't put them in there. Alright, let's mix this wonderful smelling vanilla. Yeah. Okay, great job. This looks great. A lot of your recipes, whether it be cakes or cookies, you have to cream butter and sugar together. Always make sure you get that butter whipped first a little bit and then add your sugar and just let it go. It shouldn't take too long. It really depends on your mixer. Certainly don't want to try and do this by hand because it would really wear you out. Alright, now I got to get a couple eggs in here. 2 eggs to be exact. This isn't that what a couple is? So when you're baking, you always want to keep in mind the consistency of the ingredients. That's huge, important. You can put them in one at a time. I'm not really too worried. But what you want to make sure is that you don't beat the eggs to death. You don't want to break down the texture of the eggs. So once again, I'm going to be real careful. Now we successfully have changed the consistency of the dough. So let's move on to part number 2. So I have 2 1/4 cups of flour. I need a teaspoon of salt. And I need a teaspoon of baking soda. I always have to read the ingredients like 10 times. Baking soda, baking powder, huge difference. Don't want to mix them up. Once in a while I do. They're not interchangeable. So I got 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Baking soda is what you put on your battery, all the corrosion. Put in your refrigerator to make it smell nice. And you bake and you cook with it. Alright, so I want to kind of incorporate all this stuff, right? So if you sit there with a spoon and try and beat it, you end up with a mess. But you know what? If you just take a chopstick, looky, just kind of... I'm not too concerned about how I incorporate it. Back in the day we used to sift it together. I'm still not sure we were real effective at getting a better mixture than this way. But it made us think we were. So I want to get a little bit in here. Trying to put the whole thing in. About half. And you all know that when you start putting the dry stuff in, you can get a big cloud. So we want to be really careful. Start low. Let it mix. All the dry stuff's mixed in. Just park the beater somewhere else. Use planetary gear, so it works around. So we've got that pretty well now. On this last step, we have to make sure we scrape the bowl down and get everything in all well incorporated. I'll do that real quick here. Okay, close enough. I do this in real time, unless it's something really, really complicated that you have to beat for like ever, just so you really have an understanding of, you know, if it's not perfectly mixed, it's still going to work out. You know, you want to look and make sure. But the biggest thing is that when we take this down in the bowl and we're going to look at it, we're going to see that we're going to scrape the bowl and we're going to scrape the beater and make sure everything's done right. The other thing is, I want these to be chocolate chip cookies. I don't want them to be chocolate mush cookies, so I can't put the chips in here. So let's move on to the next step. Let me move this out of the way because I'm done with it. Alright, take my silicone spatula. And these don't have to be fancy. This spatula is probably from when I was very young. I see them now, dollar store has them, whatever, just make sure this is something that I use for a lot of different things, so they are really, really handy. This makes me so hungry when I'm doing all these. I love to cook, and I love to eat, can't you tell? Alright. Sure. I want to get as much as I can. Of course, when I was a kid, the whole reason we helped in the kitchen was so we could lick the beaters. I'm sure had many a Duncan Hines cake mix or the icing that I got to enjoy. I say you're going to die if you eat cookie dough because the raw eggs. I used to drink a lot of raw eggs. Alright, I think I'm about done with this. This is really boring. The more dough, the more cookie. Okay. Take it, sure that everything's real well incorporated. And I'm sure, just like me, if you've made Toll House cookies or any other kind of cookies in your house, other than the slice and bakes, it was pretty common that you make a double batch. They're half the meat before the job was done. So I got a 12-ounce bag of chocolate chips, because I want lots of chips. Love the smell of chocolate. Chocolate, vanilla, it's all worth it. Okay, so got myself a wooden spoon here. I kind of toss this like a salad, looking for places that don't have a whole lot of chips. Oops, I always found that when you get down to the bottom, there'd be dough that didn't have any chips in it. They'd be kind of the ones, the cookies no one wanted. So I want to make sure we get these nice. Mixed. Alright, so like I said, I got my oven at 375. I'm going to take one of my fancy cookie sheets here. These actually have an air pocket. Alright, so here's what's cool. You can do this with a spoon. I think a wooden spoon's just fine. You want to just get kind of a spoonful. And we're just going to make some plops right on here. Hey. None of that. So one of my little helpful hints I was going to tell you is that, you know, when you're making like cookies and stuff, and you're opening the door a lot and then waiting for, you know, make your oven to heat up, or you're checking on the cookies or anything you're checking on, do yourself a favor. And if you have a pizza stone, put it in the oven. It'll really help stabilize the temperature of the oven. If you don't, go to a home improvement place and get some pavers or something, wash them with a hose, and throw them in the bottom of your oven, bottom rack, and it'll do the same thing. It's going to absorb all that heat. You learn something new every day. I bought a pizza stone. I don't use it very often, but it really does help. As you can see, I'm making these cookies a little big because I like to eat cookies. And they don't have to be pretty, because guess what happens? They're going to all melt down. So I'm going to put this first batch in the oven and start my second pan, and we're going to start rotating them. And remember, it's about 9 to 11 minutes. These are pretty good size, so I'm gonna go for the 11. We'll see you right back when I get these out. All right, these are fresh out of the oven. Gotta let it sit for like 2 minutes because otherwise you'll never be able to get them off in one piece. And you're all thinking, why did I make these monsters? Well, I'll tell you my secret. And let these cool real well. Then what I want to do is I want to get some vanilla ice cream. Stick it in the middle, wrap them individually, and throw them in the freezer because these make the best doggone ice cream sandwiches in the world. So I want to keep them large. And they did, they took all that time. Still really hot. Might not be ready yet to come off. Let's see here. And don't fret if they run into each other. It's okay. They got Geico. Having a spatula, it's got a nice thin point on the edge, really helps. I have a better one, but it's like a century old. I think I'm going to have to retire it. So, I wanted to prove to you that not everything has to be pretty. Yeah, when I worked in the restaurant, we had to space them all properly, and you got to measure out and everything. I've got, measuring scoops for this. I wanted to show you something where you can just have fun. I want to show you this because if you make it too much fussy work, kids aren't going to want to do it. But when you just have fun like this, and if you tell the kids after they put all this hard work into it that you happen to have some vanilla ice cream in the freezer, and you're going to make ice cream sandwiches for dessert tonight, they'll be all happy and screaming. Because I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. So as I always say, do things that are just more fun. Of course, I want you to subscribe. I really appreciate comments and ring the notification bell. And people are subscribing, and I really do appreciate that. I just thought I'd do something more fun. This is kind of a childhood thing. My mom used to let us measure, plop them on there, and they were all sorts of different sizes, and they all ran together, and who cares? Of course, we used cookie sheets that side so we didn't ruin the oven. But just do something that's more fun, and the results are just incredible. And you can create some memories for your kids too, and for yourself if you've never done this. And let me tell you, your significant other would probably like them too, okay? So you don't even have to have kids involved. Just don't give them to the dogs, they have chocolate in them. But anyway, so have fun, do something fun, eat something good, splurge a little, and put a smile on your face, and I will see you next time. Have a good day. Hi guys, this is Bill again. Welcome to my channel. If you're new to it, please subscribe, yada yada, like, hit the notification bell. If you've been watching my shows and not subscribing, shame on you. I'm going to be turning really old next month, so that would be a nice, birthday present for me. But anyways, I recently made a batch of Toll House cookies, and I made them really big. And I was actually talking to one of my neighbors, and she was going to spend some time with her grandkids, and she's like, "Oh, those cookies look yummy." I said, "Well, let's take it up to the next level." So basically, all I did was I got some vanilla ice cream. Let me tell you, it's a whole lot easier to actually break down, buy a cheap little ice cream scoop. Really saves your hands. So I put some in a bowl. This is a nice heavy ceramic bowl, so it's going to stay cool. And the other is true too. So it was in the cupboard, and as soon as I put the ice cream in, it started to melt. So put the ice cream in, you kind of work it around so it's kind of like soft serve. Then I threw it back in the freezer for a couple minutes so that it's going to be more solid. And then I just took it out a minute ago. I just want to work it back. But you've changed the consistency because I did this and kind of whipped it all around. And you could use any kind of ice cream you want. I like vanilla ice cream with cookies. I don't know, it's my thing. I also like vanilla ice cream that actually has vanilla bean in it. So, and it should be pretty heavy in milk fat so it stays nice and frozen. And when you buy the ice cream sandwiches, well, the ice cream's usually pretty flavorless, and because the consistency, they squish it onto the sandwiches, it has a tendency not to hold up real well, so it kind of smushes out the sides when you're eating it, especially on a hot day. So this is going to hold it's going to hold its texture. This happened to be Ben & Jerry's. Probably it's on sale, buy one get one at my local store. So I got my 2 cookies. Piece broke, I had to eat it. And all I'm going to do, take some of this ice cream. This is way too much fun, just so you know. And as soon as it hits the room air, it really does start to melt. So we're just going to work it around. Work it, work it. Yeah. It's probably rushing it. Probably should have given another minute out, but you never know. A little bit more. There's a little bit left in here that I can eat, so. Take your other cookie. Figure out, I had them all figured out how they lined up. Kind of swirl it around. Get the excess ice cream. Taste it, make sure it's good. And we're going to wrap it up. In the freezer it goes. So this is going to set up pretty good. So I get this in the freezer. Oh look, about 15 minutes later, I've got perfect ice cream sandwich. So there's not too much ice cream in this, it's a lot of cookie. It was good that these cookies were large and thin, because this is going to be just really great to eat. Really hope they try fun things like this. Get the kids, it's a hot day. Yesterday I was out painting the house and it's like 125,000 degrees. And so, let me tell you, stuff like this is great. But of course, make sure you stay hydrated. That's the #1 rule when you're outside working. But these are fun, easy to make. You got some cookies. If you're in a hurry, you can go to the local bakery and buy some cookies. Like I said, just scoop some ice cream in a bowl, mush it up, throw it in the freezer, let it kind of set up again, get it out of the freezer, put it on the cookies, back in the cookie, back in the freezer, let it all kind of set up and you're ready to eat. So, like I said, make sure you have fun. Make sure you eat things that are good for you. Well, okay. Well, we all have to splurge sometimes. and just have fun, you know, make a mess of the kitchen, and then make your mom pick it up, clean it up. All right, so I will see you back again soon.